everybody. Welcome to the program on mental health in family, school and workplace. This program relates to your course MPC 053 of the PG Diploma in Mental Health. The program has been prepared in 3 parts. Part 1 covers the mental health issues in the family context. Part 2 covers the mental health issues in the school context. And Part 3 covers the mental health issues in the workplace. Let us see the objectives of today's program. The program will focus on mental health issues and problems. Secondly, it will focus on the consequences and manifestations, and finally it will focus on the prevention and intervention strategies related to the mental health problems and promotion. Mental health is as important as physical health. As all of you know, the WHO has defined health as a state of complete physical, emotional, mental and social well-being. Mental health occupies a central place in every aspect of our life, starting from the home setup in the family context to the school context and in the workplace also. Going by the increasing competitiveness in the present day world and the strive to achieve perfection and excellence in every sphere, the greatest sufferer is our mental and psychological health. So, the issue of mental health deserves special attention, so that a sound mental health can help us, enable us to achieve our dreams and goals in our life. As we grow and develop, 3 important places that affect our development, shape our personality and influence our mental health are home or family, the school and the workplace. So let us start with the part 1 of this program, that is mental health in the family context. We have with us in the studio Professor Manju Mehta, clinical psychologist in the Department of Psychiatry, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. So welcome Professor Mehta to this program. Now to begin with, what do you think is the need and importance of discussing mental health in the family context in the present day world?
I think mental health is very much related to family, because family is a basic foundation of a person, and it is family wherein if there is harmony and happiness in the family, the person he feels happy, there is a subjective feeling of well-being, and his entire personality is shaped by his family. So family plays a very important role. Also, there is a body-mind relationship. Now with body-mind relationship, it is that if your mind is at peace, if you have good mental health, you will have less of physical problems. So you will be physically and mentally both very healthy person. If a person is happy in the family environment which is conducive to doing lots of things, then the person would be engaged in constructive activities. For example, if they are students, they'll do much better in the school work. If the person is working outside, he'll be more successful, he will be high achievement oriented, because there is peace in mind and at home, and the family provides that. It also gives very good interpersonal relationship, like person learns to deal with different people, because family consists of number of individuals, and in the family how parents are interacting with other people. So it is like a school, for the first school for any particular child. Like family provides that type of that information and knowledge. It provides skills also. And that is why if the family is happy, it gives a good quality of life to an individual. So right from the beginning, the family plays a very important role.
So we can say that family has a strong influence on the individual.
Very strong.
And it is that's why it is very important to understand the family dynamics. And so that it can lead to a conducive atmosphere in the family, and which will have ultimately a good impact. As you said, the quality of life will be increased. So today we will focus on the mental health aspects of the children and the elderly in the context of family. Now children face various behavioral and emotional problems. These can be temper tantrums, indiscipline, disobedience, conduct disorder, eating disorder, sleep and adjustment problems, abuses, etc. So Professor Mehta, can you further explain and elaborate on these different types of problems that children face?
First of all, I would like to tell to the listeners that there are some problems which are part of the developmental phase,
Yes.
and there are some problems which are further divided as mental health problems, which come because the family environment is not conducive or the child has learnt those maladaptive behaviors. So if we talk about problems that have come which is more like a maladaptive behavior, so under that, like ADHD is a very common problem these days, where it is overactivity, inattention and impulsivity. Impulsivity means that you do not think about what consequences will be. You are impatient and you want to take very rash decisions. You don't have control over yourself, and poor attention concentration is there. There is also aggressiveness and also conduct disorders are seen. Some children may be very shy, shy, not introvert, but shy, that they are withdrawn and aloof type, and they are not able to mix with other children in the school, and it causes problem for the child and teachers because they can't engage them into meaningful activities. Some children have got demanding behavior, that means that they may boss over the parents or they may boss over other children to get their things, demands to be fulfilled. Some very small children can have breath holding spells. Eating problems are also on an increase. It could be anorexia, it could be bulimia, or it could be pica. Then we have some problems which are manifested at the school level. In school level also, if we see that because of behavioral problems, children are not able to concentrate and they have got difficulty in remembering information. That means there is a decline in the performance that they are showing in the classroom. These children would be having low enthusiasm or interest in studies. They don't want to go to school. There may be school refusal, or they may be in spite of average intelligence, they may not be putting in effort to do something. And some of these children may also develop very unsatisfactory interpersonal relationship, where they may disturb other children, get into fights, arguments. They may create problem in the classroom with the teacher or with other people. So there would be, besides this, some children also develop certain somatic complaints, like in small children, recurrent abdominal pain is psychological. Headaches are very common. Pain in vague type of pains are also there. So all these lead to various types of behavioral and emotional problems which are seen in the school setup.
Okay. Now when you discussed about so many problems, the developmental problems and the behavioral problems at the school also, so what are the causes? I mean, if we analyze some causes, what are the causes contributing to these problems?
If we look at the causes, most important thing is that these causes would come first of all because of the child's own temperament and personality.
Okay.
Now there are certain children, for example, in a child if he is very intelligent, he may not have a problem, but sometimes gifted children also have a problem. If a child has got low intelligence, dull average intelligence, then also it would be. So intelligence is one of the factors, temperament is another factor, child's ability to cope with the environment is another thing, which we call as coping resources, because how easily he can make friends, how much frustration tolerance he has got, how persistent he is. So various qualities of the child. For that also, if there are certain deficiencies, he would not be able to adapt and he may get into more behavior problems. Then very important part comes from the family also. In family, parents, their upbringing, how they are doing, bringing up, their own expectation level, how much time they are spending, so what is the family environment like, what is the achievement orientation of the family. So all those things would lead to also a lot of causes in that. Then school is also, we have done some studies and we have found that different schools, they have got different environment. A government school would have a different environment, public school would have different environment. Within public schools also, if we see, some of them focus more on studies, high academic performance. Some of them want overall development in the children. Some boost more of sports activities in the child. So school environment teachers' expectations, teachers how much time they are giving, how many children are there in each class, all that will also have impact on the child's performance. And then there is certain cultural background of the child, from which community, which socioeconomic status he is coming. So all those things would lead to different causes in the child psychopathology.
Having discussed the various types of problems faced by the children and also the causes that contribute to these problems in the children, let us now focus on the intervention and the prevention aspect of it. Now, family is the most important contact point and the source of nurturance for the child, for its physical health as well as its mental health. Now, the children, the problems of the children, the mental health problems of the children may arise because of a number of factors. It might be due to the lack of discipline in the lack of proper discipline in the family, or it may be due to inadequate interpersonal interaction. It may be due to the lack of communication or faulty communication, and so many other factors are there. So, Professor Mehta, what are the strategies or methods that we can adopt to deal with these mental health problems in the children and also to promote their mental health?
Very good question. First of all, once we know, we have to do a complete assessment of the child. Okay. And after the assessment, we get to know what is the cause of his problem, in case we have to do intervention. So, in that, according to the causes, we have to do parent counseling. Means that the parents will have to accept the child if he is of less intelligence or if he is of average intelligence, their expectation level, like every child is very unique. So, parent need to be counseled onto the various aspects of the child, and in that how to motivate him, what child rearing practices they should have. So, everything would be included in the parent counseling. So, whenever we are dealing with problems in children, intervention with family is very important. Because first change has to come from the family, and then we can expect a change from the child. So, that is parent counseling is very important. Then taking the help of the family members, what we need to do is we have to increase the adaptive behavior of the child. For example, if we want him to study, we want him to build his concentration, we will have to make a schedule of activities, timetable for him, and reward him, give him reinforcement when he is able to adapt according to the timetable. We also need to set limits, that some children these days, it's a very common problem, they are after branded things, and they manipulate the parents that if you don't get me this, I will not do, I will not go to school, I will not study. So, parents have to set the limit that this is what they are going to spend, and this is the time that they will let the child play, and in limit setting for time, for money, for everything, that limit setting has to be there, and which parents don't have to become anxious, but they have to be very consistent in handling these things. They also have to provide alternatives to the child. If, for example, if he is having a problem in one particular area, how he can handle and he can develop another hobby or another things, that would be very important. Whenever there is a mental health problem, there is always underlying anxiety. So, anxiety reduction can be achieved by breathing exercises, and breathing exercises are very simple, even the children can do that. In some of the schools these days, yoga is introduced for this only, and we have to build lot of coping resources in the child, coping skills, like for example problem solving and how he has to solve his problems rather than getting anxious. So, this is for the intervention. In prevention these days, lot of life skills are being built. And life skills training means that in the schools, lot of sessions are taken which are like universal sessions, all the children learn, and these could be on how to manage their anxiety, how to improve their communication skills, how to do their problem solving and stress management, and also doing time management. These are few things if they are able to do, and also social skills that would help them, that there would be a prevention of mental health problems, and children will be able to be more healthy individuals, you know, mentally healthy individuals, and that will be a big contribution to the society.
So, we can say that awareness and sensitization through guidance and counseling program, as ma'am said, it can go a long way in creating an enabling atmosphere in the family, and which will promote the mental health of our children. Okay. Now let us discuss the mental health issues in the of the elderly in the family context. Now old age is a phase of life cycle which is marked by loss of physical functions and decline in mental faculties also. There are issues of care, security, engagement, social relations and mental health concerns in the elderly. So Professor Mehta, what are the mental health problems faced by the elderly in the family?
See, if we take the, after 60 till the person is going to live, this part of journey is also unpredictable. It may short for some people and it may be very long, and this journey is also very challenging because it would depend upon a lot of factors about what type of support the person has got. So sometimes it may be very smooth sailing. So what happens is that many times when they are becoming too dependent or they are not able to accept their aging problem, it can create more problems. The most important thing is to maintain the sense of independence and dignity, to accept changes related to aging, and also to become, try to prevent becoming dependent on caregivers. That is important thing, and which we should try and see that these problems are not there. But if we look at it, these days depression is increasing in elderly. Lot of elderly are going into depression, and they are also because of chronic illness at that particular time, and also because of loneliness.
So that means physical illness also affecting their mental health.
It is affecting quite a lot, and it is also the social support system which gives them about what the problems are.
So in this context, like what are the steps that can be taken for the prevention and intervention of these mental health problems?
First, I would like to give some more information to the previous question, that as I was saying, that these are on increase. So now it is almost 10% of elderly are having depression and mental health problems, and it is almost in community surveys it has been found that 14% of them have got generalized anxiety disorder, almost 0.7% are having, nearly 8% phobia and panic attacks, and it is also leading to some of the disabilities which are coming in them. So what we need to do is that first we have to try and provide them with strategies so that their loneliness can be reduced. Also we have to not only give intervention to the elderly, we also need to give intervention to the caregivers also, because sometimes a lot of interpersonal problems come up. Some elderly people, they become very rigid in their thinking, and they are not able to go by what is acceptable or what is changing culturally in the family. So there may be lot of fights and unpleasantness in the family. So how caregivers have to understand them and how not to make issues out of that, so that the family environment is very conducive and congenial. That's very important thing,
and harmony is maintained also.
And if all the family members can be involved, like talking to them or giving them some time so that they feel important and there is a sense of belongingness which is present in the family members, and also there would be some time where they can ventilate the problems. It would be again very important, because they may have their own point of view, but if nobody is talking to them and nobody is trying to understand their problems, they will be violent outbursts and things. So it's very important that ventilation of problems should be there, expression should be there. And these days elderly people are also having some peer group support system, where in the parks and all there is a meeting of senior citizens, they meet. They should have time for themselves to enjoy activities which would make them happier for that.
So any other interventions that you
there are some more interventions. For example, if a person is really having a mental, in being part of the elderly group or
Okay.
support system that is about preventing problems.
Yes.
But actually, if somebody has become depressed or who's anxious or who has lost the spouse
Yeah.
or a person who has got a chronic illness and with that he is disturbing, so in that case we have special psychotherapies for them which would help the person to be related and to understand and to change his thinking pattern and to accept his problem. So there are specific therapeutic interventions for elderly to cope up with their depression and with their anxiety, and in that it would be very important that we have to build a routine for the intervention where a person feels that he is busy and engaged.
Yeah.
So a routine could be very simple. It could be structuring. This is self-help or self-grooming time. This is eating time. This is going out, meeting friends. All those activities, walk and other things can be included. Entertainment time can be included. So there should be a routine which a person should follow. There also needs to be some exercise. If the elderly person is just sitting at home, he will get very irritated. So if there is a little routine that he can go and sit in the park, take a small walk and be there and meet his friends, that would be very important. Also, there has been that sometimes some activities can be given to them which are not very pressing on them, but they can enjoy doing it. It could be a contribution in the household activities, and it could be some this small intervention can go on.
Okay. So that means the focus can be on the individual,
Yeah.
himself or herself, and also the family.
Very
Both
important.
roles are
Yeah.
important. Okay. So the problems in the elderly in most cases are marked by social isolation and decrease in economic independence, and further it gets compounded by the lack of social support systems, and the role of caregiver is very important here. That's why information and education and support to the caregiver is also very much important here. So today we focused on the mental health of children and the elderly in the context of family. Family is the first contact of a person and the place where the individual grows, develops and learns the basic things. It has a significant influence on the individual in contributing to the mental and emotional health. The warmth, caring attitude and environment of the family creates a positive influence on the individual. We need to have a healthy atmosphere in the family that will bring in harmonious and smooth relationship among the family members. This will enable each member to grow, develop and function to the optimal way. So, thank you Professor Mehta for joining us today.
Thank you.